Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking the movie Thor, The Dark World. Now, if you're not one of my regular viewers, I happen to live in South Korea. And one of the nice things about living here is that we occasionally get American movies even before they come out in America. And we happen to get Thor a couple of days early, so I went with two of my friends and saw it tonight. And I'm going to give you a spoiler-free review, so let's get right into it. First of all, is this a good movie? The answer is yes, this is actually quite a good movie. Let me put it to you this way. This movie takes the stuff that was good in the first Thor movie and does more with it, and it kind of chucks most of the bad with from the first Thor movie. Now, it's not to say the movie doesn't have some flaws. It actually does have some serious drawbacks. But I had a lot of fun watching this, and it's just a really, really good... It's a good Thor story. It's not a great Thor story, but it's a good Thor story. Now, anyway. Now, the bad guy in this... I'm going to tell you about I'm going to tell you the bad guy's name. I don't really think that counts as much as of a spoiler. Is a guy called Malekith. Now, I'm a fan of the comics, but Thor is not the comic series that I really read terribly much of. So I want to talk about him because I think he's one of the main drawbacks to this movie. Now, in the comics, Malekith is basically an evil sorcerer called Malekith the Accursed, who is kind of got a bit of a two-face thing going on, like the Batman villain, except one side of his face is normal and the other side is kind of undead. He's actually a pretty cool thing. He's actually a pretty cool bad guy. Big strong hero like Thor versus big time magic user. It's a very natural matchup for a fantasy hero like Thor. Now here he's played by Christopher Eccleston. And I love me some Christopher Eccleston. I'm a Doctor Who fan, alright? And if you don't know, Christopher Eccleston was the 9th Doctor on Doctor Who. He was Claude Rains, the Invisible Man, on Heroes a few years back. He was Destro in the first live-action G.I. Joe movie from several years back. Now, he's a very talented actor, but he really doesn't seem to have bad luck in picking his roles when he works in the States. And this kind of continues that trend. Even though Malekith is the main villain of this movie, he really just feels more like a supporting character. He's not a terribly deep character. His plan is pretty uninspiring. He's basically your, I want to destroy everything kind of villain. And it's not that Eccleston doesn't make the most of what he's given. He certainly does. It's just he's really not given very much to work with. And this is sort of what's really synonymous, I think, with the main problem with this movie. And I will talk about the good things about this movie later on. I'm saving the good stuff for later. And the thing with this movie is that it doesn't really feel like the characters grow. Now, the first Thor movie did have its flaws, but it did have a story, a character journey. We start off in the first Thor movie with Thor. Thor is a good guy, but he's also kind of an arrogant prick. And by the time the movie is over, Thor has learned humility. He's really learned how to be a real hero. He's learned to truly be worthy of his power. And then we see this continue in the Avengers, where Thor's much more, he's still got his problems. He's still got his temper. He still hasn't quite learned how to play well with other people. But again, Thor also, he kind of has some character growth in that movie. Here in this movie, we see Thor kind of back in his old stomping grounds in familiar situations, and Thor genuinely, through the course of the movie, he's brave, he's honorable, he's funny, he's friendly. I mean, Thor is basically a good dude. But by the end of the movie, he's still basically the same guy. He hasn't really changed. He's just faced a very incredible challenge, and he's come through at the end because, he's Thor. He's the hero of the movie. Of course that's what's going to happen. And it's really the same for pretty much everybody else. Now, like Jane Foster, for example, she was kind of one of the weaker aspects of the first Thor movie. Now, here she's a little bit better, but not much. I mean, her thing is still, like in the first Thor movie, Natalie Portman runs around trying to do science stuff, crazy Asgardian magic stuff happens around her, and Thor has to go and save her. And that's all that's really done with her character. There's really not much else to Jane Foster besides that. And that's really just kind of a waste of an actress like Natalie Portman. And this is a similar problem with what we have going on with Sif. It's hinted that there's going to be kind of a story going on with her, but it kind of just fades away, and by the final act of the movie, it's long forgotten by everybody in the audience. And again, that's just wasted potential right there. Honestly, out of all the women in this movie, it's actually Thor's mom, Frigg, who does the most cool stuff. Now, not that Sif doesn't have a few good moments. She's still got her very solid action moments. But in terms of action and characterization, yeah, Frigg takes this movie hands down. And she did pretty well in the last Thor movie. Here she tops that, I will tell you that. Another thing that I wasn't too happy about was Odin. Now, Odin in the last movie was sort of portrayed as very generally as sort of the good king. Well, here Odin basically is kind of a prick. He feels sort of like a little bit like Thor in the first movie. He's kind of a dick, and he seems like he's like that way unnecessarily. Now, not that some things don't happen where you understand where Odin is coming from, but it's things that are happening before that even happens that make Odin look like a jerk. And I don't mean this as a knock against Anthony Hopkins. I mean, come on, it's Anthony Hopkins. I mean, the guy's a living legend. But here, he seems a little bit less physical. He seems like a little slightly physically diminished. I mean, granted, it's been a couple of years since the last Thor movie, and Sir Anthony Hopkins is obviously no spring chicken. But it just sort of made Odin seem reduced a little. Now, let me see here. Yeah, and let me kind of start. Now, I think I've kind of hit on most of my main problems with the movie, so let's kind of start transitioning over to what I thought were the movie's strengths. And one thing that I have to mention, though, is one of the movie's strengths, and at the same time is one of its weaknesses, and that's Tom Hiddleston's Loki. Now, don't get me wrong, Loki is pretty easily the best part of this movie. And Tom Hiddleston is clearly just having the time of his life with this character. And obviously the folks at Marvel Studios have listened to the fans. Believe you me, you like yourself some Loki, you are going to walk out of this movie happy, because a lot of time in this movie is spent with Loki. I mean, Loki really does kind of steal the show this movie. But that's part of the problem, is that nobody else... Loki doesn't really have a huge amount of character growth. I mean, there's something going on with him as a character, but at the end of the day, he's still basically the same guy that he always was. And so much of this, what I was feeling with this movie, it's like the movie was saying to me, like, hey, here's Loki being funny. Hey, here's Loki being sneaky. Hey, here's Loki being a jerk for no reason. Hey, here's Loki giving you one of those moments where you kind of feel a little bit bad for him. And now there's nothing intrinsically wrong in that, but if there is no character growth, if there is no real story, then Loki as a character is really more just a series of, here's a moment of Loki doing something that you will like, rather than here's Loki, who's an interesting and complicated and conflicted character, who's also really funny and also really, really evil and sneaky. It just doesn't really chain together very well. as a character, Loki doesn't chain together very well, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. Now, not that any of this really hinders Tom Hiddleston's performance. Like I said, this is a man who's clearly going to town and loving every second of it. But anyway, moving on. Now, another good thing about this movie is the Warriors 3, for example. They've really gone and polished these guys up. Now, Sif was pretty solid in the first Thor movie. It's Randall and Hogun and Vostag who really kind of get some polish here. Not that we really get to see very much of Hogun. He's sort of shuffled off to the side. Oh, I guess that counts as a spoiler. Okay, sorry. But anyway, but that's just kind of give more spotlight to Sif, and I don't really have a problem with that, since frankly, I kind of thought that Hogun was really one of the weak points of the first Thor movie. Anyway, so like I said, they have much nicer outfits. They seem really sharpened up as characters, and honestly, they seem quite a bit less cartoony, especially Vostag. He's been brought down to earth, so to speak, quite a bit more. And frankly, I think it works to the movie's advantage. Now, one of the downsides of the last movie is that, we spent, I think, probably a little too much time on Earth. That's debatable, I'll admit. But here, the movie really goes whole hog on showing us the majesty of Asgard and the diversity of the 9 worlds. It really, really shows you that Thor is this fantastic adventure, this science and technology, all these elements of fantasy brought together. It just shows you the incredible potential. And Asgard is absolutely beautiful. It's stunning. This is what I hope the next Star Wars movie looks like in terms of visuals. And the realm of the Dark Elves is creepy and bleak and scary. And it really conveys the sense of the epicness, the majesty, the size that Thor stories can be. These Thor stories, they talk about the 9 worlds all the time. Well, here you get a sense of what that is and what that means, and just how big and epic Thor stories potentially can be, and how big and epic they should be. It's great, and it's all enhanced by so much absolutely fantastic music, and there's just some really, like I said, great visuals. I was just excited watching the scenery, if that makes sense. And if you see the movie, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Let's see, what else? Speaking of characters, let's kind of talk about some of them some more. Darcy, Jane Foster's assistant. Now, she was somebody who rubbed a lot of people who watched the movie the wrong way. Well, Darcy's back this time around, but she's significantly toned down. And I think it works pretty well. Now, I really wasn't hugely against Darcy. I thought she actually provided some nice comic relief. But I did think that Darcy is a character for whom a little bit goes a long way. And here they managed to strike a nice balance with Darcy. They also bring back Jane's friend, the Swedish dude Eric. They kind of follow up what happened to him in Avengers. And again, I don't really consider any of this spoilers, because you probably figured you were going to see this guy again, right? And he definitely ends up providing some comic relief. I kind of wish that they got the chance to have him have a little bit of a chat with Thor, kind of like that great scene where they go off to the bar and get drunk in the first Thor movie. Well, we unfortunately don't get that. But, it was certainly nice to see his character again, and it looks like we might potentially see him somewhere down the road. So, I wasn't 100% happy with what they did with him, but I'm not really going to let that drag the movie down. And he does improve as the movie goes along. Now, getting back to characters and stuff, one person I really wanted to talk about was Heimdall. And I'd forgotten that it was Idris Elba who plays this guy. And while Christopher Eccleston might not be having too much luck in Hollywood lately, Idris Elba is. Because this year alone, he's here in Thor, and then just a couple of months ago, he was the leader dude in Pacific Rim. I had totally forgotten that he was Heimdall in the first Thor movie. And here, he still gets his, cool badass moment. But what I like about Heimdall here is that he seems, a lot more calm. He's actually almost philosophical to a degree in this movie, and he has a really nice scene with Thor where they're just sort of talking about life, the universe, and everything, and it's really nice to sense that there's some genuine affection and camaraderie between Thor and Heimdall. Heimdall's the guy that Thor goes to when he needs a friendly ear. He's that friend that you go to when you need a little bit of perspective on life, and Idris Elba executes that wonderfully. It's like, yeah, Heimdall, you're a cool dude. I like you. And, let me see. Oh, yes, of course. How could I forget? Well, unsurprisingly in this movie, I will tell you, yes, you should stay for the credits. But if you haven't heard, there are 2 scenes during the credits. One in the middle of the credits and one at the very end. Frankly, the one at the very end is not really all that important. The one in the middle, though, well, I don't think I'll be surprising very many people by saying that it drops some nods to Guardians of the Galaxy, which I believe is the next big Marvel movie. And if you are familiar with the lore of the comics, like I am, you're probably going to have your oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god moment. Yeah. And I won't say anything more about it than that, but if you're not, I just do want to say, think back to some of the cooler Easter eggs that we got to see in the first Thor movie, and with what we see here, and put them together, and you'll not only get that cool oh my god, oh my god, oh my god moment, but just maybe some of the pieces on the chessboard for all the Marvel movies just might fall into place for you. I really do think I see where Marvel is going with some things now, and it's something that fans have been thinking, like, are they going to do it? Are they going to do this? Do they have the ambition to go that big? Guys, they do. They do. They really do. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Yeah. So yeah, guys, at the end of the day, this is a good movie. This is a fun movie. It's a movie with some flaws, but I totally felt like I got my money's worth. I totally felt like this movie was worth my time. And if you're a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, oh man, this is a nice addition. And if you are a fan of the comics and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, yeah, you're going to like this one. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for you this time around. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And, of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Who's Your Jedi. Till next time, take care and have a good one.